So it became apparent it wasn't really working well the way we were doing it, and so we looked at options for providing a better experience for the patient and for us to be able to manage and bill this. And what became apparent was if we could create a unit where the nursing staff were experts in taking care of observation patients, and if we could learn how to do the billing properly, and if we could get the length of stay on the unit shortened, then that would benefit the patients because they get a smaller bill, and it would benefit us because then we could appropriately bill and be in compliance with CMS. So we created what we call a clinical decision unit. It's basically the same thing as an observation unit because it's a place where patients who are in an outpatient setting can go and continue their workup or continue treatment, and created a 24/7 unit where nursing staff were specially trained on understanding observation, how to do the billing, but also how to expedite the care of the patients. The upshot of that was that after about 6 months of planning, we opened this unit in the north end of the hospital, which was a recently vacated unit related to some reconstruction we were doing in a new wing that we opened. And we put the unit in at the beginning of October. And we also looked at some metrics. We measured some things prior to opening the unit. So, for example, we had an average length of stay in the observation beds in the past of about 30 hours when we did the initial baseline metrics. And we obviously weren't doing billing very well. So once we opened the unit, we found that the length of stay has dropped down to about 14 to 16 hours. So we're basically, taking care of the patients in a good way, and doing it in about half the time, which is good from a cost standpoint, but it's also good from a patient experience standpoint. For us, we have other outpatients and inpatient beds. We have patients who have completed a procedure through the radiology department. They end up in an outpatient bed, recovering. We have patients who have had a cardiac cath or other procedures that end up in those beds. We have patients who have outpatient surgery that end up in those beds. So over time, we're going to start to migrate some of those patients, if they spend more than 2 or 3 hours here, into that unit. Some of those patients end up being admitted because they have some kind of a problem or complication, but a good number will probably end up in our observation unit because those are the nurses that will have probably the best expertise to care for them prior to sending them home. If we continue to expand our patient base and we get bigger, we might have to even consider other types of units related to the CDU. For example, larger hospitals, some have a dedicated chest pain unit and an observation unit. So they will flow patients with chest pain through and get a treadmill and be really super efficient at managing those patients. And currently we just take care of those patients in the unit. So there's other things that can be done to further improve what we've done over time. Probably 3 things you could do that would really help a lot. One is there's a lot of literature on CDU. I mean, there's actually scientific literature on the benefits of it and the risks and so forth. So there's, do a literature review and get that. The second is there's several organizations that provide conferences, all-day conferences, week-long conferences on different versions of CDUs and how to set up the unit and so forth. Probably the best thing to do if you really made a decision to move forward would be to do a site visit and actually spend time in a CDU, and maybe do that in multiple settings, at a community hospital or an academic center. So I think our staff found all 3 of those to be very beneficial ways of approaching it.